All right. Quite the day out there, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. What is it? Wednesday, May 18th, 2 p.m. Eastern. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I can see the live chat this time around. That's an improvement from last time. So we'll be doing some interaction. Hello from South Africa, Tennessee, Greece. We're going to look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, some altcoins. We're going to look at some correlation charts between crypto and the broader market. We're going to be looking at some back burner bear entries I forgot to look at last time around. And then I'll ask you all what you want to look at. All right, let's get going. California, Kansas, Florida, Ohio, Colorado, Seattle. All right, I think we've got the world covered. So, Nasdaq, big bear day today. Today is what I call an anomaly day, which means we have all of our major sectors hitting low of the day at the same time. And very quickly, I'll show you exactly where. So it started out as a regular day. We know we're looking for daily consolidation. The broader market has been bouncing for 4 days, and we have a ton of space for a lower high to form. This is QQQ right now. Anything under 330.29 was just a daily lower high. That daily lower high has now been very convincingly set. And we had a weaker open. We had Target, the company Target, had earnings, and they just absolutely fell off a cliff, talking about their freight costs and their future profit and giving guidance. And so with that, Walmart is collapsing and Costco. So all these names getting crushed and the broader market following along. That's not the reason we're dropping, but that is definitely a little bit of a spark that kicked off the morning weakness. And so QQQ started as a regular bear day, 5-minute downtrend, nothing unusual. And then right here, this period told me something is different. This is not your normal day. What was it? Oh man, I don't have my EMAs on my chart again. I don't know why it does this. There it is. All right, that's better than nothing. So it was because look at that period drop that we saw there. We did not hit the 1-minute EMA 12 resistance for 20 plus minutes. That's how you know you are extremely strong to the downside. A weak drop hits that EMA all the time. A collapse doesn't even get back to that level. That told me, okay, this is serious. Bears are for real here. So what that means is RSI goes out the window. I do not look bullish. No matter what, I'm not looking bullish today. I don't care about anything that happens unless there was some kind of news event and Powell says, we're buying everything and we're going to send the market to all-time highs tomorrow. Then I would go long. But in the absence of that, I only look one side. I'm eliminating half of the equation. So if I'm trying to find trades and look for setups, if I eliminate all the bull trades, it's much more simple. I just determine what time frame am I looking for a bear entry on. So I've been trading NIO, which is a EV company bearish today. But the point is, bears have absolute complete control and they could not have asked for a better day. So because of today's action, what is the probability that we can change a daily trend to the bulls? It is dropping significantly because initially the bounce was okay, big enough bounce. Let's see what the bulls can put together. But now at this point, we've got a retracement size of that bounce of over 65% on just the first red day. We haven't even confirmed an hourly downtrend yet. So if we were to see a QQQ, we know we're looking for an hourly lower high next bounce. But if we confirm an hourly lower high and lower low, then we're heading right back down to the low of the dump, our fear low, down at 284.94. So the probabilities that the bulls can change the daily trend dropped very significantly today. And the daily downtrend may just continue with another lower low. So obviously if that happens, we're going to anticipate that cryptocurrency will be testing its recent lows as well. Right now, there's more space. The bulls have more space to work with. And let's check out this chart. This is Bitcoin USD divided by NAS 100 USD. So this is showing us relative strength, Bitcoin versus the Nasdaq. And we were watching this 4-hour equilibrium from the last video, last live stream Monday, and there was this 4-hour equilibrium, and it looks like it's still holding. There's a low of the dump, high of the bull move, higher, low, lower, high, higher, low, lower, high, double bottom, lower, high. So we did get a bear break here with no follow through. So we can see that we are still weaker than the broader market, but we're not falling apart. And I'm watching to see if this shifts. But essentially we can say we've been in this 4-hour downtrend ever since May 15th at 8 p.m., which was Sunday when futures opened. Pretty much when futures opened Sunday, that is when Bitcoin noticeably shifted to be weaker than the broader market. So I'm just keeping an eye on this to see, do we stay weaker or do we start to gain some strength? And right now, this 4-hour green candle is telling me Bitcoin is not dropping as significantly as the Nasdaq is today. They're both weak, but the Nasdaq is weaker. So the bears have absolute control. Every little bounce is being sold into in the stock market world. And now let's see where Bitcoin stands. So Bitcoin is rolling over in the sense that our daily lower high is now set. And we could tell where we were just trading sideways for 2 days here. And I made the comment, I forget where, but made the comment where it almost looked like the bears were just waiting. We were just waiting for the stock market to set a daily lower high. And so that's what has played out with inside bar bear break. And now we're watching for a higher low compared to 25.3. So we have more space to work with. Certainly percentage-wise, we can pull back 10% and still be above that level. And it's just a question of, number one, does the Nasdaq break to a lower low? Number two, does Bitcoin break to a lower low? So if the Nasdaq doesn't break to a lower low, it's very unlikely that Bitcoin's going to. So we're keeping an eye on that level over the next couple of days. So we have a clear 4-hour downtrend now, right here with the lower high, lower low. So 4-hour downtrend is our guide, knowing that the bulls must regain the 4-hour trend in their favor if we are going to see a daily high or low set. So that is our guide, 4-hour downtrend. As long as we are in a 4-hour downtrend, bears have full short-term control. So low, high, and we are scouting the higher low. So I still have a small position left after buying the 12-hour higher low and selling half of it. My position size is very small, small enough that I don't even really care about it, but it's enough to keep me paying attention for the potential that I will be interested in looking for a daily higher low. I will not be adding anything bullish as long as, or I should say if, the Nasdaq breaks to a new fear low. But I'm keeping that possibility open. And the reason that I'm still holding a small position is because the weekly chart looks like this. Doesn't mean we're going to bounce, but it would not surprise me if we set a daily high or low and continue to tighten up. We know after wide ranges, we look for equilibriums. That's why we were looking for it on the 12-hour, and now we're looking for it on the daily as well. We've got a pretty wide range that we are trading within. So the dominance chart today, again, the last 5 days, the dominance chart is telling us that alts and Bitcoin are essentially doing the same thing. There's not much difference between them. Right here, we clearly saw that alts were dropping a lot harder than Bitcoin, but once we found a bottom and once we evened out a little bit, not much has changed. We're just going sideways on this chart, which means, the dominance is staying the same. So we're doing the same thing, generally speaking. So Ethereum, right now we got a little bounce underway for QQQ. So just out of curiosity, it's so small. It stands out like, oh, okay, we're finally getting a bounce going. And this is what the chart looks like. That shows you how weak we have been today. But just curious to see how Bitcoin's responding. And it's not really responding. But again, it's stronger in the sense that we haven't broken the low of noon Eastern, whereas QQQ compared to noon Eastern is clearly at a lower low. So there's just another little instance where we're not dropping as hard. So Ethereum is doing the same thing, daily inside bar bear break, and now we scout a higher low compared to 1701. Again, in my opinion, that is the most likely scenario unless things get real ugly in the stock market and we enter some massive fear, fresh lows. I will be anticipating a higher low. Let's keep an eye out on 4-hour RSI. I'm much less confident in 4-hour oversold conditions in this market environment. But if we see 4-hour oversold conditions, that's something that we can look towards to potentially mark or try and mark that daily high or low. But the only people that are interested in bullish entries at this point are really aggressive bulls. Because right now the bears still have a lot of control. And there's no reason for any bear on the daily time frame to be covering their position unless they are locking in profit because they've hit their targets or whatever the reason is. But it's only the most aggressive bulls that are looking to do anything at this point in time. But again, it wouldn't surprise me to see a support level hold and get a week. We know we're looking for a weekly bounce, right? The weekly bounce is not going to surprise us when it happens from here after this massive drop. So it's just a question of, can we shape up a daily trend change back to the bulls? ETH BTC. So we are sideways. Again, the dominance chart showed us that. And the question is, are we going to confirm the monthly head and shoulders? So that is all I care about on the ETH BTC chart at this point. It's just, can we hold 6.4 or not? 0.064. If that level breaks, significant weakness of Ethereum comparative to Bitcoin will be taking place. And in my opinion, the only way that I shouldn't say the only way, but in my opinion, if we're going to break this support level, it means another leg down in crypto. And it means Ethereum dropping harder than Bitcoin after we hit fresh lows, which is on the table. It's definitely possible. And the more we drop here, the more confident bears are going to get, which eventually leads to everybody being on one side of the boat and the boat flips, but we're not there yet, in my opinion. One thing I want to mention that I forgot to mention from the last video is, again, our back burner bounces. You know I love back burner bounces. We're not in a back burner bounce environment, obviously, because you have to be coming from a bull market and a lot of strength, but bears have the same setup. So bears can be looking for back burner overbought RSI levels to short. And looking at the Trader Pro alert system, Bitcoin, Ethereum, a bunch of coins, hourly back burners were firing at the highs of these bounces. And they have marked our daily lower highs. So looking at that on the chart here, we can see that the hourly RSI on Bitcoin getting above 70 marked the daily lower high. It's the exact opposite of what we're used to on the bounces. If we're in a bull market, hourly oversold conditions in your ideal bull market, hourly oversold marks daily higher low. It's the exact opposite. Hourly overbought marked the daily lower high. So if you are looking bearish, utilize the Trader Pro alert system and watch for those back burners, looking at them from a bear perspective. And here's ETH, same thing, right up at that high. Hourly overbought, bear entry signal, following through nicely. If you don't know about the back burner, we've got the YouTube video as well as this free ebook, dropping the link in the comments. I'll put the link in the description of the video. Learn up on the back burner, because this trade style, and we only just, named it and put it into words over the last year and a half. Prior to that, it was just up in my brain and just knowing of when I was going to be looking for bounces in different market environments. And I did not know that it was a good bear signal until we started to back test and look at it and say, well, wow, it's working just as well when we're in a bear market. So long story short is, this pattern has made me a ton of money buying dips in a bull market. It has not made me a ton of money shorting in a bear market, but if this bear market persists, it definitely will start to do so. Maybe not necessarily in crypto, but certainly in the stock market world. All right, other coins that I want to look at. So I want to look at Mana, because Mana had a big bounce and was a bounce leader. So again, I look at Mana here and I say, what is the probability that we set a daily higher low compared to 60 cents versus the probability that we just drop straight to a lower low from here? So I know possible. It is possible to drop to a lower low. Absolutely. It can always get more extreme than we think. We can always see another leg down. Those are the constant things we're reminding ourselves in the back of our head. But probability wise, for me, it is much more likely that we form a daily higher low compared to 60 cents, because we need to drop another 45% from here after already pulling back 30% from the high of the bounce to see another lower low. So in my opinion, the more likely scenario is a daily higher low and tightening range. Again, I will be watching the Nasdaq for clues. If the Nasdaq breaks to a lower low, my probability needle will increase that we can break to a lower low. But I am scouting. The bulls need to shape up a 4-hour trend change back in their favor, or watching for 4-hour oversold conditions, but ideally setting up a 4-hour trend change for a daily higher low. So what does that look like? How would I make an entry trying to find the daily higher low here? My style of trading, there's 2 ways I would do it. If I am aggressive, I would be entering into oversold conditions. Ideally, 4-hour oversold daily, and 4-hour oversold hourly, 15-minute, 5-minute. If they're all aligning oversold, I start to scale in. If we get a short-term bounce to cool off some RSI levels, I exit partial, and I try and position myself in a risk-free spot where either that's the daily higher low and I nailed it, or I'll stop out and not lose a thing. The other way that I will do it, if I want to be more patient, would be waiting for a big enough bounce on the 4-hour that I don't get any of, and then say, okay, well, that's a big enough bounce. Bulls proved it to me. And I'm going to look for a 4-hour higher low entry, put my stop under the low at that point, making the assumption that that is our daily higher low shaping up. And then if we confirm the 4-hour trend change, I have a good position. And again, I'm just using this as an example. I don't think our daily higher low is being set right now, but that's something that aggressive bulls are looking for. Or bears. If you're a bear and you want to take profit, if a daily higher low is going to form, you're putting on your bull glasses, even though you're in a bear position, and you're watching that setup. So a 4-hour trend change setting up back to the bulls is the indication that the daily higher low is potentially shaping up. We're watching our retracement size at this point, and it is approaching 50%. Not there yet, maybe 40, 42%. If we get to the 50%, we know the probabilities then dictate, if we are going to set a higher low, that we're going to look for a tightening range. It's entirely possible, if we form a higher low, that we form a tightening range into the end of May. Well, maybe not. We trade 7 days a week, so for another week. We pull back maybe another day or two, set a higher low, bounce for a couple days, set a lower high. Next thing you know, we're in a real tight range. And then the beauty of that is we know when volatility is coming. I started the day in the Chart Guys chat room community saying, volatility is coming. We know it's coming. How can we say that with confidence? I couldn't say it's going to be today, but I could say it's going to be today or tomorrow. And it's because our 12-hour charts were so tight. We had these daily inside bars. You can only get tight to a certain point, and then you're either going to trigger stops, and bears are going to jump in shorts for a leg down, or you're going to trigger short stops, and bulls are going to jump in on a bull break for a leg up. So you know the volume and volatility is coming when your range gets really tight, and we had that on the 12-hour. So we'll see now, is that going to shape up on the daily chart as well? Mana BTC, are there any clues? Nah, not much. Definitely want to keep an eye on it to see if there are any clues, but it's doing the exact same thing. So not much information there. Other coin that I wanted to look at, DOT. So DOT was a bounce leader. I don't know what I drew there. I drew something here. We would have to see a notable bounce here if I would be paying attention to this. I probably drew this morning. So if I'm going to keep paying attention to this channel or wedge or whatever you want to call it, we would need to bounce from here. So I'll keep an eye on it, but it doesn't mean much to me. This is just, okay, a little visual guide. Let's see if we bounce off this support line. But bigger picture, we know we're scouting a daily higher low. We're watching our retracement size. We have tons of space to still form that higher low. We could drop 20%. Retracement size, very similar, about 45% or so. Not 4-hour oversold, but keeping an eye out for it. So same deal. 4-hour trend change back to the bulls needs to shape up with where we stand. Because we saw this bear break today, we know that the result of the next 4-hour bounce for the vast majority of individual crypto coins is going to be a 4-hour lower high. It's just a question of what's the retracement size on that bounce. Do we bounce significantly enough to create the space for a trend change attempt, or do we bounce weakly and it's a 4-hour bear flag from here? So we can gauge probabilities based on retracement sizes in both directions all the time. It helps us determine what is most likely, but we do know that a 4-hour lower high is the more likely scenario next time we bounce. So bears, if I'm looking at this and saying, oh man, I wanted a bear position today and I didn't get it and I don't want to chase now, I determine what's the most likely scenario and then I wait for it. I know that a 4-hour lower high will be very likely next time we bounce. So I patiently wait for the bounce whenever that's going to take place. And then I scout my trade. And then I zoom in for the details on the shorter term time frames that tell me a 4-hour lower high is shaping up. It could be a loss of the 15-minute uptrend. It could be a 5-minute or a 15-minute rising wedge. Is Luna still doing stuff? We were looking for a 12-hour higher low. And we never got it. Not convincingly. We had a nice bounce there, but never changed the trend or anything. Four-hour lower highs look nice and clear. Let's keep it simple. Luna bears have absolute control as long as 4-hour lower highs keep forming. Lower high, lower high, lower high, lower, 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 lower. Support is down here, but slow fade, complete bear control as long as 4-hour lower highs keep forming. Ape. So Ape's looking for a daily high or low. So let's just go over my routine of how do I get my bearings of what the morning setup is. When I sit down at the computer first thing, I pull up this list and I say, okay, where do we stand right now? So I can tell, as I've said in the past, I organized this list this morning. So I look at this list and go, what's changed? Okay, the AXS is still a lead bull. That's not different. But look at GMT. I know GMT has significantly weakened because it used to be down the least and now it's down 11%. So I know that over the last, how long have I been awake? Over the last 8.5 hours, GMT has significantly weakened. ENS has significantly weakened. Everything else looks fairly in line, but I can just tell by the positioning how they have changed. Sushi has significantly weakened over the last 6 hours. So then what I did this morning, I'll just show you in the Slack chat room, I just went through the list on the 12-hour time frame and said, okay, who is still in a 12-hour equilibrium? Who is standing out as more bullish? Who is standing out more bearish? And I literally just go down the line. All right, equilibrium. At this point, all these equilibriums have broken bear, but there were a whole bunch of names that were just in sideways, tightening 12-hour equilibriums that have broken bear. Low, high, higher, low, lower high, higher, low, lower high, bear break. So I assume the vast majority, AXS is definitely standing out as different, but anything under 2371 is just a lower high on AXS. GMT had a bull break with zero follow through into a bear break. Binance just breaking support now of 290, not by much, but 12-hour lower highs and bear breaks for most names. Sushi is trying to hold a 12-hour higher low. That's a bit different. Bulls gave themselves some space to work with. So bottom line, the clarity for me at this point is on the daily time frames. I will use the 4-hour trends as a guide to help me on that daily and watching whether or not we're going to set a daily higher low. 4-hour lower highs, most likely scenario as the next bounce result for both the Nasdaq futures chart and crypto. All right, I'm reading the chat room. Thanks for the likes. Let's get those likes to 100, please. What do you want to look at? KNC. KNC has been getting some attention. So KNC looks very different. That's why it's getting attention. It's not doing what everybody else is doing. So trying to set a 4-hour higher low, 15-minute trend change back to the bulls. Just looking for an hourly lower high on this bounce. So a lot of space for the hourly lower high. We have to confirm an hourly trend change back to the bulls if we're going to keep strength here. We know we're going to zoom out, and we know we're looking for a weekly lower high to be the result of this bounce eventually. Don't have to worry about that now. So clear lead bull on this move, and KNC BTC is doing the same thing. So we have to ensure, this isn't now in the spotlight, right? This is a spotlight bull because it is standing out as stronger, and its BTC pairing is doing the same thing. So we have to ensure that that continues to remain the case. If we form 4-hour inside bars here, and the BTC pairing breaks the 4-hour inside bar bearish, and the US dollar pairing does not yet, that's a red flag to us and a signal for bears. But for now, they're doing the same thing with a 4-hour inside bar, trying to set a 4-hour higher low. And we could say bulls are positioned real well for any Bitcoin bounce from here. How beat up is Bitcoin? Hourly RSI. We're only just getting to hourly. We're not beat up at all. We're not beat up at all. We're not oversold on any time frame. So just keep that in mind. But if we do see a bounce from here on Bitcoin, then KNC will be looking to form that 4-hour higher low. Thanks, Chris. Glad your equilibrium. Glad the equilibrium. Here's a fun fact. That equilibrium video was brainstormed, slides created, and recorded all while microdosing. But it is a good video. Just wanted to prove to myself. To get into the Slack chat room, check out TheChartGuys.com. It's just our regular membership, and that's multiple daily live streams as well. All right, Chainlink. It's just been so weak for so long. I mean, even just looking at Link BTC, daily lower high set. How long have we been bearish on Link BTC? And the answer is for almost 2 years. Next time we bounce, we're just looking for a weekly lower high. Honestly, besides Litecoin, LTC, BTC, Link is right there behind it in terms of just being a consistent lead bear. And just keep it simple. As long as we keep setting lower highs, that's going to continue. And we know the next time we see a weekly bounce, unless there's some kind of big time news catalyst, we're just going to be looking for a weekly lower high. Clear daily downtrend for the last month and a half. So Link bulls have a ton of work to do. They had their time in the spotlight. You remember the good old days. They had a good run, but we have fallen off in a big way from that. And it's another coin that's down 85% already. Your Chainlink bags are not okay. I'm sorry. That doesn't mean sell now, but I mean, there's just nothing bullish about the chart. I am keeping an eye on the dollar for a daily lower high. I mean, essentially what we have to see happen is the dollar confirm a daily downtrend, fail to break resistance, and break to a lower low. We had a big drop the last 3 days, but we're bouncing now. But it is worth keeping an eye on the dollar. It's worth keeping an eye on the 10-year. That needs to break to a lower low as well. The VIX. Did you all watch the VIX? The VIX is a volatility instrument, and it's got a nice daily equilibrium forming, and that's going to be informative whatever direction it breaks. Higher low, lower high, held support. And now we're scouting a lower high, anything under 35.48. This is definitely something I am watching closely into the end of May as one of the pieces of the puzzle, one clue for our markets in general. Did already cover DOT fairly recently, maybe 7 to 9 minutes ago. Litecoin is all bear. As long as Litecoin, look at how many times Litecoin BTC has given us a weekly lower high. Every single bounce for the last year. As long as that is the case, Litecoin will remain weaker than Bitcoin. So that is my guide. And once every few days, I'll check in and say, are we still forming a weekly lower high? And if the answer is yes, I say, okay, Litecoin's a lead bear. Crypto stocks are definitely getting routed. Coin is looking down at 60.51 support. It's a very weak bounce at this point. I was hoping to short it for a weekly lower high, but we got to get a bounce going first. I will be interested in shorting coin for a weekly lower high the next time we get a weekly bounce going. The only support is 60 and then all-time low, 40.83. And the most important resistance is 74.25. That's now our line in the sand. If 74.25 is resistance, the bears have full control. DXY does look a little toppy. So for the VIX, I'm just looking for clues. If the VIX breaks this equilibrium bullish, that means markets are dumping. And if the VIX breaks this equilibrium bearish, that means the markets are putting in a temporary bottom, in my opinion. So essentially, just watching to see if this is, oftentimes it'll give me the same information that I'm getting from the daily chart on the Nasdaq or S&P 500, but sometimes it can be little clues. And there was a little clue yesterday, and I didn't act on it, but someone highlighted it. Look at the close at the low of the day, 3 days in a row. And it was closing at the low of the day, even though stocks were not that strong. And then yesterday, we had a bounce into the end of the day, even though stocks were closing at the high of the day. There was a little tell. That was a shift in character for the VIX from the last 4 days, the last 30 minutes to the last hour of trading yesterday. So that was a nice little clue, certainly in hindsight, but something I'm paying attention to and we'll look to act on potentially next time. All right, I gotta get going. I'm doing a live stream for the stock market close of the day in a half hour. QQQ 15-minute bear flag. Again, just persistent weakness. Every single bounce is just sold into. Once you get this kind of momentum on the day, you very rarely change it in any significant way that day. Doesn't mean tomorrow is going to be the same thing, but it's almost like you set the tone and it's very hard to shift that momentum that the bears gather. And so here we are testing the low of the day. And Bitcoin still holding on better. But QQQ is weak. All right, I appreciate you all tuning in. 125 likes, we did it. You're all great. Check out the free ebook. Check out Backburners from a Bear Perspective. And we will see you probably Friday. Thanks again. I put pants on for you. That's something special.